Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're gonna do some planting and I've got the most gorgeous group of things gathered up. Look at this load. Oh my word. So we've got 3 different varieties of rose in here. We've got some calycanthus, or sweet shrub is the common name. We've got 3 of those, 1 black lace elderberry, and what will become a nice drift of hardy geraniums. And the honeybees are already on it. They found us. The roses are looking pretty prime right now out in the garden. I just love this time of year when everything's kind of in its first fresh flush of the season, and there's nothing quite like that first flush either. You know, even if they come back and bloom again through the season, I don't really find that they maybe there's one more window where they're as thick in bloom as they are this time of year, but right now it's just so pretty. I mean, we'll take a look at a few of these roses here, and the colettes are going for it on the arbors, but this right here, and these are just single roses we're going to tuck into flower beds. I love to do that. This is called a Madame Blue. Let's see if I can find the tag. Just a medium size Floribunda rose, sweet Madame Blue. You guys, the fragrance, oh, it's so good. They describe it as being strong citrus and spice. I get the spice. Oh, it's a good one. And these lavender pink flowers I think are just gorgeous. They come up in these sprays. You can see all the buds around that single right there. Oh, okay, this one right here, we've got one of these I think in our cut flower garden. This is a Silas Marner. And I don't know if I've got any flowers on this one that are more open. Oh, but look at that delicate blush pink. Now this one I love because it doesn't get massive, like 3.5 feet tall and wide. So it's very easy to just kind of tuck in. It's not going to take over and become this massive shrub, which sometimes you want, but sometimes you don't. And this one is hardy down to a zone 4, which not all roses are. So I think that that's awesome. And it's got a nice, it's not quite as strong of a fragrance as this one, but it's got a very pleasant rose smell. And then we've got one called Elizabeth. Look at how gorgeous these are. Again, I don't know that we've got one that's more open on this plant at the moment, but the buds are beautiful. This one gets a little bit bigger, 4.5 feet tall and wide, and the fragrance of this one is awesome. It's a very strong kind of sweet rose smell. And I was going to check to see if there was a zone, because the Elizabeth is hardy down to zone 5, Silas Marner zone 4, Madame Blue is, I don't know, it doesn't say. Moving on to our shrubs over here. So the black lace elderberry, we've showed you these before. These will grow, and I could swear that the tag used to say that they get 6 to 8 feet tall and wide. It says 6 to 10 feet tall and wide. Zone 4 through 11, they get massive in our area, just massive, and they're beautiful. They have kind of that Japanese maple foliage sort of structure, kind of that lacier leaf look, but they can handle and want full sun, full hot sun, and they thrive in that and do not burn. In fact, they just, like, it is what makes them grow so vigorously and so big. This one is just finishing up blooming. I think the ones out in the landscape have more bloom activity left on them, so you'll be able to see that here in a minute. The elderberries in our area, you do not have to do anything special to. They just go for it and love it, and they don't mind our high pH, so that's great. And this next one right here, the Aphrodite sweet shrub, or calycanthus. This is one that when I very first saw it, I thought for sure it wasn't going to be one that would do well in our garden. And I was wrong. We planted one of these 2 years ago out in the south garden, full sun. I mean, you guys know how it is out there. And it has performed beautifully. It comes back beautifully twice in a row. So far, we're doing really great with them. So I want to add some more because they seem to be in bloom for most of the season, and they are so fragrant. They smell like kind of that aged grape smell. Like if you've ever been in a vineyard or if you've got grapes in your own yard, it's toward the end of the season where, you know, you've still got lots of grapes on the vine and it's still really warm outside, and you walk by them and you get that really sweet kind of pungent grape smell. That's what they smell like to me. And I love how glossy the leaves are, and the bigger they get, the bigger the leaves get. I can show you mine out in the south garden, but they will grow between 5 and 10 feet tall and wide. So it's one that you probably want to put in a good size area. I want to see, do they bloom on, does it tell us, bloom on old wood or new wood? I want to say new wood, but I'm going to just double check. They do start blooming like late spring and go through the whole season. Calycanthus Aphrodite. There we go. Blooms on new and old wood. So there you go. I also didn't notice any signs of chlorosis or a struggle of any kind with the one we have planted out. This is a little bit smaller. So anyway, super happy about this one. And the last thing we have here are these geraniums, which it's like Biokovo, B-I-O-K-O-V-O is the variety. And they grow 10 inches tall and 36 inches wide. That's big. Like, you can create pretty big impact with just one of these. And I might be separating these because I'm going to tuck them in on the west side here because they are just the most beautiful, delicate shade of pink. And I've got a few little holes over here I'd like to fill. The thing I love about hardy geraniums is that they are incredibly adaptable to different types of light. In fact, let's take a look at a couple of varieties I have over here on the north side of our west side of our house. And they're pretty much in the shade most of the time, and they're awesome. So there's this one right here, which looks an awful lot like the one we are going to plant today, except this one has blooms that are a little bit more white. I don't know if you can see the honeybees. Pollinators love them. They turn beautiful red. Oh, there's a few more bees over here. They turn beautiful red in the fall. Some of them are evergreen. I can't remember if this one is or not. We've got another one over here that blooms purple. And look at that, mixed in with the hostas and looking so gorgeous. These are almost due for a shear back. They're kind of flopped over just a little bit, but in such beautiful, beautiful bloom. And this flower bed in the afternoon gets sun, but only through this section right here. So these are pretty much shade all the time. But then we've got a bunch of varieties out in the south garden that are in full sun all the time, and those are equally as beautiful. I'm going to check the zone. I think this is zone 4 through something, 4 through 8. That's pretty tough. All right, so this is what we have before us. Right over here on the west side, you know, we are focusing on pinks, purple, white chartreuse. Look at these roses. Oh my gosh. These are the Mary Rose. This is one of the little spots I want to pop some of those geraniums. Look at that. Oh, Stand By Me clematis looking beautiful. Yeah, it's really coming together. And it's been fun just kind of filling in random spots with things. Like I could put a couple in right in here. I could probably squeeze 2 or 3 in this spot. I can't remember how many I have, maybe 7. And I do want to tuck some in right here. So we'll see. 1, 2, 3, 4 maybe. Oh. These are the Annick Rose right here. Look at that. They are so, so pretty. And then these are Royal Jubilees right here. I didn't cut those back as far, and they are huge. And then we've got Ambridge Rose right here. Aren't those gorgeous? And of course, Colettes, lighten it up. Look at that one over there. Oh my gosh. So I think these geraniums will be the perfect add into this area. So let's get them in the ground. Turns out I had 6 of them, which made it very easy to break them up into groups of 3. And there's our first little group right there. Aren't they just perfect? Oh, and they're gonna fill in this area. And I'm guessing they're gonna do it pretty quick based on how their root systems looked. I'm really looking forward to it. And this will be a really fun sort of experiment because this is a shady area, clearly. I mean, we're here in the morning where that's when the bulk of the sun comes into this area. And then toward the late afternoon, evening, they get shaded by the arborvitaes, which aren't those glorious? maybe we could flash back to what it looked like when we very first planted them. They are just a spectacular evergreen hedge, and they formed exactly the green type of wall that I was after in this space. Anyway, that was kind of a side note, but the other 3 are in more sun. That's the experiment. Well, 2 of them are in more sun. So those 2 right there, there's a grouping of 3, and there are some little Veronica. I think they're purple ones. Can't remember. They might be pink. They might be white. Can't remember. Either way, they'll be perfect with those geraniums there. Okay, first 6 plants done. Now I would like to run around and show you the black lace elderberry sizes. So this is year 1, just bought. And I don't know how big that is. Does that look about 20 inches wide or so? And maybe like 1.5 feet tall once we get it in the ground. And then there's this one. This looked just like the one I just showed you last year. So this one is going into its 2nd growing season, and it's looking beautiful. It's put on a ton of growth. You can see the blooms on the old wood right down there, and then this is all new growth this season so far. So that is what this one looked like last year. Crazy. And then we've got this one, planted 2 years ago, so this is its 3rd growing season. Look at how gorgeous it is, full of blooms. Oh my word. I actually planted 3 in this area. So there's that one, this one, and that one, which is really spreading out. But again, this is what they looked like 2 years ago when I planted them in the ground. Now let's head over to our big ones. Look at that. Again, what it looked like the first year, what it looks like 3 years later. 4th growing season, we've got another one right over there. And I intend on actually planting this one kind of to the left of that Corinthian linden right there, so that it almost looks like we have a grouping of 3 stretched around this curve. I think that'll be a really good look. But isn't it just crazy how different a mature specimen looks versus what you pick up down at your garden center? I mean, it's a beautiful shrub still, even in its small form, but they just look so unassuming and like they're going to be that size forever. But they most certainly are not. And I really like to put our black lace elderberries somewhere where they can go to town, because if you're not pruning on them all the time, then you get to enjoy the blooms. Now, if you do need to prune on yours, the best time to do it, if you want to maintain the blooms year to year, is to do it immediately after it's done blooming. That way it'll have time to form up buds for next year's blooms in this current growing season. And while we're in this area, I can show you our Aphrodite. It is right next door and sort of starting to get engulfed. But look at this plant. Look at how huge these leaves are. Ours have already started to bloom. There are buds all over the place. I think they're absolutely stunning. And mine might end up coming right back in here to kind of create a nice hedge. I'm hoping that they get on the 10-foot side of things. I think that would be awesome. And they're a beautiful contrast to our Sesky gold dwarf birch shrubs here, which are at full size. I just think it's so spectacular. Look at that in there. Oh. So I was thinking right in here, wouldn't that be beautiful? That way we'd have 1, 2, 3. These 2 wouldn't be spread out as far though. So, we could also tuck it in over here. But then we're getting closer to our forest pansy redbud, and I don't want too much red together. I think right here is gonna be good. I think I'm gonna move it that way just a tiny bit. Oh yeah, perfect. How does it look from this side? Yep, this one I'm gonna use the auger because we have not mulched out here yet, so I don't need to worry about making a big old mess on top of the mulch. Oh yeah, look at it in there. And just imagine it looking like that. Won't that be amazing? So very soon, this whole area will be full. And you know, the goal is, our lane is right here. My goal is to have all of this kind of filled up with beautiful things some high, some low, with like maybe little peaks into this area. But I largely want the interior of the space to be a room in and of itself. I don't want to be able to see a whole bunch of views of it from the lane. So we'll get there quickly if we keep planting things like this elderberry. All right, you guys, the next thing I want to get in the ground are those Aphrodite sweet shrubs. Let's do it. All the sweet shrubs are in. I ended up deciding to put them all in this sort of area. I separated them a bit though, because they have the ability to get as big as the tag says, what, 5 to 10 feet tall and wide. They're really good standalone shrubs, but they're close enough to where, kind of like the black-laced elderberries, you can pick them out sort of in the same spot. And this area is a perfect example of we haven't mulched yet. This is what our soil looks like unmulched. We just planted this pine right in here, and you know, we use the great big auger and it just flings our soil everywhere. So you can see how white our soil is compared to, this is old mulch right here, which we use compost. And then there's some wood chips kind of popping through because the compost was quite thin in this area. Anyway, I also did some phlox cut back. It's a brand new variety of phlox, either coming out this year or next year. Anyway, we got our hands on it early and I planted it out, and then it got really cold and kind of made it look a little crummy. And now that it's getting hot, I thought, you know what, let's shear it back. And there's a whole bunch of fresh new growth at the crown of the plant. So we'll sheared it back. We'll get this area mulched now that we've got some more stuff planted. It'll look really fresh. But here is one of the sweet shrubs. So it can fill in this space. Look at our smoke bush. Do you remember the rejuvenation prune we did on it? Look at how much better it looks now. I am so encouraged. I just love it when we take after something that severely, yet it turns out so beautifully. 9 times out of 10, things turn out this way, but not always. There's always that small chance that something's just not gonna like that sort of severe prune and it'll take it out completely. But I thought it was better off knowing whether or not I needed to replace it earlier rather than later, but we don't need to replace it, which is great. So from this side, we've got the Vanderwolf pine. We do have some pufferfish hydrangeas in here that will grow up, the smoke bush, and then our Aphrodite. Baptisia is still looking really good too. Next one is right in this spot in between our blue spruce and our pine. Just a nice deciduous, something blooming right here I thought would be nice. And then the last one is right here, right next door to a 9 bark that's looking really wild. And we don't have a tremendous amount in this spot. I've got a Sergeant crabapple here. There's iris that we transplanted. Nothing that gets super big. There's a bloomering lilac, kind of thinking a small green evergreen right in here, something that just kind of more specimen. I have one, which I think I know which one I'm going to put here. I just picked it up down at the garden center, but we'll wait a different day to do that. We've got the 3 roses yet to plant. These can pretty much go anywhere and they'll look great. So let's get them all planted and then we'll walk through and take a look. got all 3 of them in the ground and they're scattered kind of all over. Elizabeth is right here. So 4.5 feet tall and wide. She can just fill this little spot in. There is a Beyond Midnight Caryopteris next door to her, so that will bloom blue late in the season. That'll be really pretty together. And we can fill in with some kind of beautiful perennial. Maybe a type of hardy geranium would look great here. Just beyond that, you know, I planted some of the Ice Bay roses that we wintered over. I planted 2 here. One I popped out today because it didn't make it. One of them has tiny little green leaves on it. The 3 over here look much better. I'll leave that one for a little while, see what happens. But I've got a couple more pufferfish that I think I'm going to at least plant 1 more right here. Either that or some kind of a small evergreen. Actually, I think that would be better. Let's do that at some point. Something for winter interest. But oh my word, is she ever pretty. Oh, next one is down this way. Right here we have the James Galway. So 3.5 feet tall and wide. To the left here, we've got lots of opportunity for different types of plants. It's kind of funny. I usually work in pockets. Like I'll work in one pocket and then I'll move on and really fill up another area and, you know, leave these great big expanses with very little in them. So we'll just start working our way this way. We've got some beautiful Agastaki in here. I think we put this in last year. I did have some Coreopsis, that pink blooming Coreopsis. I don't think any of it is left. None of it has survived. But we've got some pretty daylilies. They're like a purple pink, forest pansy redbud right above. There's Forsythia. This is an apricot climbing rose in here. North Pole, European white birch. James Galway. Gorgeous. And the 3rd one is on the other side. All right, Sweet Madame Blue, right over here. There she is, tucked in, right in between a couple of the Arctic Fire Yellow dogwoods and the Gin Fizz Juniper. I planted some of those pineapple lilies. You can see some foliage right there and right there, but the ones in between did not make it. It was an experiment for me. I've never planted pineapple lilies before, so to even have just a few of them come back makes me excited, but I think this rose fits in beautifully. I think having some color right in here, I mean, we do have some GMs and there's some lambs here, but it's a very small offering of perennials or blooming things right in this particular spot. We got to get something figured out on this arbor here soon. You know, I was initially going to do Concord grapes over this arch, and then after I realized how many grapes my itty bitty grape plants back there produced, I thought, nope, that's way too many. I do not need any more fruit-bearing plants over the pathway. Let's do something that maybe it just has flowers, or we could do like a Crimson Glory vine, which is an ornamental grape. It's got all the, you know, the big beautiful leaves, beautiful red fall color without the fruit. So we'll figure something like that out, but I would really like to get that covered here soon. But the reason why I waited so long is I couldn't get my hands on Concord grapes when I wanted to plant them here, and now I'm kind of glad that I couldn't find them anywhere. But this rose is beautiful. I am just loving it. And you guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's project. Lots of kind of random planting, but I love that. I love when we get to work in several different areas throughout the day, because you just get to spend time in all the areas and notice things that maybe you wouldn't notice if you weren't actually spending time working in that space. We do drive around and walk around a lot in the evenings. Like that's one of our favorite things to do. But even then, when you're not stopping and working in a space, you still don't see everything. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I sure enjoyed being out here. Starting to warm up though. Tomorrow we're supposed to be in the mid to maybe high 90s. Today I think it's high 80s. It's pretty pleasant out here. So I'm gonna go get everything watered and prepared for what's on its way. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next one.